There is a name that has become a synonym for terror, for power, for the very apex of nature's ferocity. A name that even 66 million years after its owner's reign still sends a shiver of primal fear down our spines. Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Terrant Lizard King. But this is not just a name from myth. It is not just a monster from a movie. It was a real, living, breathing animal. A 40-foot long, 9-ton predator that was the end result of millions of years of evolution. It was, quite simply, the most efficient and powerful terrestrial carnivore this planet has ever produced. We think we know T-Rex. We've seen its skeleton in museums, its shadow on our bedroom walls. We've seen it hunt on the silver screen. But the truth, the scientific, biological truth, is more complex, more terrifying, and more magnificent than any fiction. This is the real story of the T-Rex. Beyond the roar, beyond the myth, this is a forensic investigation into a living machine. We will peel back the layers of its body, its power, and its senses. This is the anatomy of a monster. Our story begins not 66 million years ago, but in the thick, dusty heat of the American West, the late 19th and early 20th centuries. It was the era of the Bone Wars, a bitter rivalry between paleontologists Othniel Marsh and Edward Cope, who scoured the Badlands in a race to discover the next great dinosaur. Their feud uncovered thousands of new species, but the king? The king remained hidden, waiting. The year is 1902. The location? The Hell Creek Formation, Montana. A desolate, wind-scorched landscape that was once a lush, subtropical floodplain. A man named Barnum Brown, a charismatic and relentless fossil hunter for the American Museum of Natural History, is leading an expedition. Brown was a legend. They called him Mr. Bones. He had an almost supernatural knack for finding fossils. And in the summer of 1902, Mr. Bones struck gold. Or rather, he struck bone. It was the partial skeleton of a massive unknown carnivorous dinosaur. Fragments of T-Rex had been found before, a few teeth here, some vertebrae there, but they were misidentified, dismissed. This was different. This was a beast. Barnum Brown carefully excavated the specimen and shipped it back to New York. There, it fell to the museum's president, Henry Fairfield Osborn, to study it. Osborn knew, in that instant, that this was not just another dinosaur. This was a superstar. The apex. He looked at the massive jaws, the thick bones. He needed a name that could command respect. A name that could rule. He combined Greek and Latin. Tyrannos, Soros lizard, and the ultimate signifier, Rex King. The Tarrant Lizard King. When the name was unveiled in 1905, it captured the world's imagination. It was the monster from our collective nightmares, given form. When the first mount was erected, the public was awestruck. Here was a 40-foot-long, 18-foot-tall nightmare, a king, and it was real. T-Rex had claimed its throne, and it has ruled our pop culture ever since. But the T-Rex we know today is not the T-Rex that Barnum Brown found. That first skeleton was incomplete. They didn't find its arms, so they guessed. They mounted the skeleton with the long, three-fingered arms of an Allosaurus, a completely different dinosaur. It stood bolt upright, its tail dragging on the ground like a kangaroo. It was wrong. It would take another 100 years of discovery of new skeletons, of technology, and of fierce scientific debate to tear down that old image and build the real T-Rex. A creature far stranger and far more lethal. So what makes a T-Rex a T-Rex? Its size, its teeth, its tiny arms. The truth is, T-Rex was a perfect storm of lethal adaptations. It wasn't just one thing. It was everything, working in concert. It was a biological machine, designed for one purpose: to find, to kill, and to consume. And the heart of that machine was its head. The skull of a Tyrannosaurus Rex is a 5-foot-long instrument of destruction. A human could lie down inside it. But it wasn't just big. It was an engineering marvel. We often think of a skull as a single fused piece of bone. But the T-Rex's skull was kinetic. Many of its bones were not fused, but held together by flexible ligaments and joints. This didn't make it weak. It made it strong. When the T-Rex bit down on a struggling Triceratops, these flexible joints would act like shock absorbers, dissipating the immense forces and stresses, preventing the skull from shattering. But the real purpose of this skull was power. T-Rex possessed, without question, the strongest bite force of any terrestrial animal that has ever lived. How strong? A lion A formidable predator bites down with a force of about 650 pounds per square inch psi. A saltwater crocodile, the current living champion, can crush with 3,700 SI. T-Rex? Conservative estimates, based on digital models of its jaw muscles, start at 8,000 SI. Some models go as high as 12,800 SI. This is not a bite. This is a car crusher. This force means T-Rex wasn't just slicing meat like an Allosaurus. It was a bone crusher. It didn't just kill its prey. It annihilated it. A bite that strong needs teeth that can withstand it. And T-Rex's teeth were not like other dinosaurs. They were not thin, serrated blades. They were, in a word, bananas. Literally. They were shaped like bananas, up to 9 inches long, 12 inches, including the root, and thick. They were less like knives and more like railroad spikes. They were serrated, yes. But their real function was to withstand the immense pressure of that 12,000 pound bite. They were designed to puncture, grip, and then, with a twist of its powerful neck, shatter solid bone. T-Rex didn't just bite through bone. It bit with bone, using fragments as secondary projectiles to tear deeper into its victim. And if it broke a tooth, it didn't matter. Like all sharks and dinosaurs, T-Rex had a conveyor belt of death. It was constantly growing and replacing its teeth. A lost tooth in a 9-ton struggle was just a minor inconvenience. A new, sharper one would soon take its place. So you have the perfect weapon: the skull, the bite, the teeth. But a weapon is useless if you can't find your target. And this is where T-Rex truly separates itself from the movie monsters. Let's start with the big myth. Jurassic Park. The idea that T-Rex can't see you if you don't move. This is 100% false. And it's the exact opposite of the truth. T-Rex's vision wasn't just good. It was superb, among the best in the history of life. How do we know? We look at the skull. Unlike many dinosaurs whose eyes were on the sides of their heads, T-Rex's eyes were forward-facing, like a hawk or a human. This gave it exceptional binocular vision. This means it saw the world in 3D. It had a terrifyingly accurate depth perception. It could judge distance, speed, and location with precision. When a T-Rex looked at you, it knew exactly where you were. Scientists estimate its visual acuity was 13 times better than a human's. It could likely spot prey and distinguish it from its surroundings, from over 3 miles away. It didn't just see you. It saw you long before you ever saw it. But its eyes were only one part of the sensory arsenal. Let's talk about its nose. When we CT scan a T-Rex skull, we find a massive cavernous space for its brain. And a huge portion of that brain space is dedicated to one thing: the olfactory bulbs, the part of the brain that processes smell. They were, relative to its brain size, enormous, bigger than almost any other dinosaur. This means T-Rex didn't just smell. It saw the world with its nose. Like a modern vulture or a bloodhound, it could likely smell a carcass, a wounded animal, or a nest from miles away. It could follow the scent of its prey through the dense Cretaceous forests, a 9-ton ghost tracking you on the wind. And finally, its hearing. The T-Rex's inner ear was tuned for a specific type of sound, low frequency. It was excellent at hearing deep, rumbling sounds. The footsteps of a 10-ton Triceratops. The deep, guttural calls of another T-Rex. Or the panicked, low-frequency vibrations of a small mammal like our ancestors, hiding in the undergrowth. It could see you. It could smell you. It could hear you. You could not hide. Okay, we have to talk about them. The arms. The tiny, 2-fingered, useless little arms. They are the punchline to every T-Rex joke. A 40-foot long, 9-ton killing machine with the arms of a 5-year-old child. What is going on here? For decades, scientists assumed they were vestigial, evolutionary leftovers, like a whale's tiny hip bones on their way to disappearing completely. But modern science has a different, more complex answer. When we study the arm bones, we find the muscle scars, the attachment point muscles, are incredibly large and robust. And the arm bones themselves are thick and strong. Whatever these arms were doing, they were doing it with power. A T-Rex's bicep could, by itself, lift over 400 pounds. This is not useless. It's just specific. So what were they for? The truth is, we don't know for sure, but the theories are fascinating. Theory 1, the slasher. With 2 large curved talons, perhaps they were used at extremely close range to slash at prey that was already pinned by the massive jaws. Theory 2. The prey holder. Some scientists suggest that when a T-Rex ambushed a smaller animal, it could use its arms to hold the struggling prey against its chest while the jaws did the main work. Theory 3. The get-up levers. Imagine being a 9-ton bipedal animal. If you fall, or if you are resting on the ground, getting up is a serious problem. It's possible these powerful short arms were used as pivots to help push the massive chest off the ground, allowing the powerful legs to get back underneath. Theory 4. Mating. Perhaps they were used by the male to grip the female during mating, a feature not for hunting, but for procreation. The mystery of the arms is, in many ways, the key to the T-Rex. It shows us an animal that was evolving. It had specialized its primary weapon, its head, to such an insane degree that its arms were no longer needed for hunting. They were being repurposed. They weren't a weakness. They were a sign of the T-Rex's total confidence in its primary weapon, its mouth. A T-Rex's head may be the weapon, but its body was the engine. And that engine was built for power. Its spine was a massive horizontal bridge held in place by a complex system of muscles and ligaments. Its tail, long and muscular, was not a dragging third leg as old movies showed. It was a dynamic counterbalance. It was the steering wheel. As the T-Rex ran, the tail would swing from side to side, keeping the 9-ton animal balanced and agile. Its legs were predictably enormous. A single T-Rex thigh bone is taller than most men, but were they built for speed? For a long time, we imagined T-Rex as a Cretaceous freight train, chasing jeeps at 40 miles per hour. The science, however, points to something different. Biomechanical models show that an animal of this size, with this much mass, would shatter its own leg bones if it tried to run that fast. A fall at that speed would be a death sentence. T-Rex was not a sprinter. It was a power walker. Its top speed was likely closer to 15 to 20 miles per hour. This may not sound fast, but it's faster than any human can run. And more importantly, it was faster than its main prey. It didn't need to outrun a jeep. It only needed to outrun a Triceratops or an Edmontosaurus. And it could. This brings us to the most controversial and perhaps most fascinating aspect of the modern T-Rex: the feathers. For a century, T-Rex was a scaly, green, reptilian monster. But in the 1990s, in China, a new group of fossils was discovered. Small, carnivorous dinosaurs, ancestors of the T-Rex, covered in feathers, not just quills. Full, downy, bird-like feathers. Suddenly, our tyrant lizard looked more like a tyrant chicken. So, was T-Rex feathered? The evidence is complex. We have found skin impressions from T-Rex itself, from its tail and legs, and they show scales. Small, pebbly, reptilian scales. So case closed. No. It's likely T-Rex was a combination. It's almost certain that baby T-Rexes were covered in a coat of downy feathers, just like a baby chick, to keep warm. As they grew, they would lose most of these feathers, retaining them only in certain areas for display, perhaps on the head, down the spine, or on the back of its tiny arms. Forget the green, scaly monster. Picture a 9-ton, 40-foot-long predator with a head that could crush a car, eyes like a hawk, a nose like a bloodhound, and a mane of dark, primitive feathers. The king was not just a brute. It was magnificent. We have built our monster, a 9-ton killer with 9-inch teeth, a predator with binocular vision and a superpowered sense of smell, a tyrant with bone-crushing jaws, and just maybe a crown of feathers. We have built the machine.